What's up, YouTube? Just a casual nerd here, back at it again with another video. And today's topic is, should the DCEU start over? As we know, recently the DCEU has been in a rough state with actors and actresses possibly getting recasted, doing two off-camera antics, and on top of that, some of the already established characters like Batman and Superman, and respectfully, Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill possibly not returning back to roles, which I believe Ben Affleck has already been confirmed that in the Flash is supposed to be his last appearance, but we know how that goes. He may eventually come back. But at this point, should the DCEU just start over? In my opinion, no. But what they should do is take a break. One thing about the difference between the MCU and the DCEU is the MCU, they've definitely put out some bad films. But the thing about the MCU is they tend to fail forward. But the DCEU, they'll fail and they panic and they change the entire plan that was set forth. And you guys all know the saying, without a plan, then you plan to fail. And that's exactly what we're seeing with the DCEU unfold before our eyes. Now, there have been rumors that this upcoming Flash film is supposed to do kind of like a soft reboot of the entire universe. I'm not personally a fan of the idea because it just makes things even more messier because you already have other solo DC films that's already been proven to also do well on its own without the world building of this whole DCU mess that kind of got going on. And on top of that, as we know, the off-screen thing with Ezra Miller. So going into this film, I doubt a lot of people are really excited about this film at this point. So what the DCEU really needs to do is to take a step back, slow down, and assess what they actually need to do going forward. And I really hate to say it, but they kind of need to follow a little bit in the MCU's footsteps and actually focus on telling decent stories for their solo characters and then building the universe that way. Unfortunately, they have done some solo films. They just unfortunately haven't been as memorable as we would like them to be as some solo films that have not been a part of the DCE universe. And that in itself is a problem. So what I personally think Warner Brothers needs to do is kind of take a step back and not release any films. Honestly, I wouldn't mind if they kind of not release a film for a year or two, just so they can take time to actually see what type of universe they want to build, see what type of characters they actually want to introduce, so they can actually create consistent, good content and not a movie here that's good but it's not connected, or a movie here that is good that's connected to the universe but doesn't actually lead anywhere. Now, some people think they should just blow the whole thing up and start over. The reason being I'm not personally a fan of that method is because we're a little bit too far gone into the DCU already. Also, you still got to deal with the competition of the MCU, even though we can argue that Phase 4 has been kind of weak, but we can still argue that it is their main competitor. And on top of that, you have other superhero material coming up in other platforms that is just as good and if not better than some of the content that DC and the MCU has put out. So at this point, blowing everything up and then starting over, I think a lot of people just sincerely just lose interest in what's going on with the live action part of DC. And to make things worse, the live action TV shows that we see mainly on the CW, they usually kind of just get really bad after season 2 and people just stop watching those as well. So the DCEU is in a kind of critical place, but they have time. They have time to get better with all this superhero content that's out. I honestly wouldn't mind if they just, took a step back and assessed their situation and actually hired, good creative directors and writers who can potentially revitalize the DCEU. And I am a fan of the Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill Batman and Superman, so I would love to have them come back as well, since they're literally the titular characters of DC. I really don't see them being recasted because there's such a prominent role. I really personally wouldn't like if they were recasted. Now, I do know that they're kind of bringing in Michael Keaton, and I've had conversations in private with a couple friends. I'm not really a fan of that, even though I did like Michael Keaton's Batman, but given his age, I wouldn't want to see him be like the main Batman in the DC. Of course, if they did like a Batman Beyond thing on its own, I think that would be pretty cool. But even that, I don't think I would even want it to be connected to the DCEU, but rather maybe a solo project. But that's my opinion on the state of the DCEU. So drop a comment below what you think they should do. Again, my personal opinion is no, I don't think they should blow it up or start over. I think they should just take a break, maybe take a year or two break, plan it out, and give us some good content. Maybe do some solo films that eventually connect. I know it's kind of taken out of the MCU playbook, but hey, it's been proven to work. Even though in the animated side they kind of proved it to work the opposite way. Unfortunately, live action it just doesn't doesn't work the same because we have to kind of get connected with the actual actors and how they kind of carry the role. When animated and or animation, it's pretty easy to get connected with them because it's just getting connected with a voice actor and then the animation. But drop a comment below, like and subscribe. Tell me what you think. But what are you even listening to me for? I'm a casual. Cue the outro.